And we're back. You're still tuned into the nominee announcement for the Future Awards 2015. I'm still your host, Miss Vimbai, coming all the way from Zimbabwe, representing Southern Africa here. But I'm honored to be among some very beautiful West African ladies. Of course, I've got Mfon Ekpo from Nigeria, who's the Executive Director of the Future Africa Awards, and Kathleen Ndongo from Cameroon. Bienvenue, madame.
Merci.
And you are representing Friends of the Future Awards. So let's take this from the top. The Future Awards, plugging into the movement that is Africa Rising. Tell us a little bit about how we are plugging into all the development that's happening on the continent.
Oh, thank you. What we're trying to do is drive the narrative that is actually African, not the narrative told by people wanting to represent Africa as something else. We're driving the narrative of young people in Africa who are beginning to do, or really have been doing great work to push development, to push innovation, to push leadership. We're telling their stories through the same channels that have told stories of Africa, that have not depicted Africa in the true African light, which is Africa as an industrious continent. Africa as a continent that is going through a revolutionary phase, as it were, to come into their own. That is what the Future Awards is tapping into. And the United Nations World Population Prospects state that by the year 2025, the world's population will be at 8 billion, with Africa leading that charge. Now, Africa is made up of mostly young people. If it's easy to see how failure to absorb these young people will cause something of a social upheaval. So it's like the time is now. The time is now to begin to see how we absorb them, how we translate our demographic composition to dividends. That is what the Future Awards seeks to do with young Africans.
I love that. That's very powerful. Kathleen, I'm going to hand over to you. How do we bridge this gap? I mean, as young people who are, there's the platform like the Future Awards, and then there's young people, and then there's African economy. So it's like there's a few different bodies that are floating, and then, there's a lot of disenfranchised, maybe young people out there who are trying to figure out how exactly to tell their story. What's the way forward? Because by the time I think you get on this platform and you're nominated for an award, you're kind of finding your feet. What about those people next year and the year after that and the year after that who will be recognizing in years to come? How can they get started now to be part of Africa Rising?
It's an interesting question, and it's very valid. You finished with Africa Rising, which is a very interesting narrative. Some think it's nuanced, some think it's cliche, but I also think it's very valid because irrespective of all the problems that Africa has had, whether it's commodities or economy or security or lack of jobs or bad governance, there is still a lot to count Africa for. And you can think of it as the years have gone by. Africans are no longer happy about bad governance. So you look at Burkina Faso and you look at Nigeria only this year. Africans are now at the forefront of innovation. This is the continent of the mobile phone. In 2020, we're going to have over 500 million mobile phones. That's crazy. So the opportunities that are in this continent are what answers your question as per how do we begin to connect? How do we get the stakeholders, all the partners towards the grand development together? And I think that platforms like the Future Awards, for which I'm privileged to be a friend, are those platforms that young people must tap into. I'll tell you something. We need to stop traveling for the sake of finding, better climes out there. Because every time I'm on a plane, I see a lot of other people who are trying to come to Africa, and it's interesting because in the many gaps we have, the young people have many opportunities. There is a corridor that has been created from Cairo to Cape Town. That's an opportunity for regional integration and regional trade. So what should we be doing? The young people first should be empowering themselves. Secondly, should be tapping into platforms like, the Future Awards and every other platform that's out there, created actually by young people, Co-Creation Hub, Budget Nigeria, EIE Nigeria. In every single industry, the media entertainment is booming. Yeah. We need more mentors, and of course, we need government to actually support us and give us the tools that we need.
I love that you mentioned mentors, because I feel like there's a serious, like as a young person, I struggle to connect with, especially female mentors. It's tough, to come by them. And it's beautiful that there's this vehicle that has a lady as an executive director. Now, we've come from the Future Awards being a Nigerian award. We've evolved into an African platform. What's the vision moving forward? Because the Future Africa Awards are basically mentors, to young people. What's our vision moving forward as to, okay, now we're a continental movement. What's next in the next 5 years and 5 years after that?
You're right in the sense that there's a dearth of mentorship in Africa. Now, it's not that we don't participate in mentorship instinctively. It's just that we haven't set the system and structure for a replication of constant mentorship. Exactly. So I think that when we begin to do that, we're being intentional about how we choose to mentor. Yes. Then we begin to see, as she said, Africa rising in terms of, things begin to happen. Yeah. Now, you cannot, you said you had no female mentors. It's not that you didn't have female, role models teaching you things. It's just that, again, like I said, no system, no structure. Exactly. So you can even remember exactly what you were taught to be able to transfer it to the next person. Sure. You would just transfer what you know. Exactly. And whenever you remember to transfer it, it's the reason why we have to put in place systemic structure of mentorship. What we're doing now is, part of what we're doing is we're distilling knowledge. We're codifying knowledge. In the sense of, we're going to the older generation, the mothers, the women in government, the ones who have broken through, to say, what did you do? Whether you knew it or not, we're going to codify your knowledge to be able to translate it or transfer it to another generation so that it's not lost with you.
The disconnect, I just wanted to add, has nothing to do with the fact that, we're not mentoring. Yes. It's just a tools versus application.
Bring it all together.
Right? So back in the day, you couldn't tell when someone was ill because it takes days to get a letter. These days, there's WhatsApp, right? Yeah. So I could sit at home and actually mentor someone on WhatsApp. Yes. So what is interesting about what the Future Awards is doing, the Future Africa is doing, is that it's connecting the ecosystem and providing the support structure, which is absolutely brilliant. We don't have to keep replicating and copying one another. Yeah. If Benga Chesson is doing something great with PIN Nigeria, we need to connect and find out how we could support that or add to that or learn from that. And that way we create the synergy that we need. Yeah.
Powerful words from very powerful African women. On that note, though, I know there's people waiting at home just to find out whether they've made the cut for this year's nominees. So, Mfon, can you take us into the next category?
Thank you, Vimbai. The nominees for the Future Awards Africa Prize in Advocacy and Activism are... Could you help me take the next category?
Thank you, Mfon. I'm actually really excited about this category. The nominees for the Future Awards Africa Prize in Education are... fun. Can you please introduce the last category for this set, please?
And the nominees for the Future Awards Africa Prize and Enterprise Support are
Congratulations to the nominees. We look forward to meeting them and to finding out who's going to turn out the big winner on the night. Mfon, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last words for the young people out there who are glued to their screens and just hoping to catch just a little word of advice from you?
I would say, do something from your corner of the world. Do something. Make sure you're doing something to drive change, impact. Make sure you're doing something to lead others, to influence others, to move the continent forward. Make sure you're doing something from your corner of the world.
That's beautiful. Yeah, very true.
Start with what you have.
Yes.
Start where you are. Do what you can. Stop complaining. This is Africa. We're Africans. We're Ubuntu. We can do anything.
That's right. Oh, I love that. I feel empowered. I'm ready to go and take over the world, but it's not my time right now. We're going to keep it moving as we've got more nominees to reveal. Remember, the conversation continues. The hashtag is TFAA2015. And of course, hashtag Africa needs you. We're going to continue with this shortly.